Today on Central Illinois on the Record, more cuts coming at Caterpillar, what the company is saying about its latest earnings report. Plus, Durbin for governor, how the state's senior senator is responding to the speculation. And policing in the 21st century, what the chief of police at ISU is telling CIOTR about a recent trip to the White House.
Now, from your local election headquarters, this is Central Illinois on the Record.
Welcome to Central Illinois on the Record. I'm Paul Cicchini. We start with the battle against heroin and the efforts on both sides of the Illinois River to address that issue. The Pekin Police Department started releasing videos on its Facebook page last week as part of what it calls the Heroin Initiative. The videos profile people impacted by the drug. The department says it hopes people watch the videos and share them on social media. The department plans to release one video a week for the next 6 weeks. Well, those videos aren't just the latest weapon in the war against heroin in Central Illinois. Peoria city leaders held another forum about the drug last week. CIOTR's Eugene Daniel spoke with both Pekin Police and Peoria city officials about their initiatives. He has more on the efforts to stop what law enforcement calls a vicious killer.
It's an epidemic. Those are the words Pekin Police Detective Mike Eaton uses to describe heroin abuse, estimating thousands of people are impacted by the drug, and the number is growing.
There's communities all over our nation that are really struggling to get a hold of this, and our community is no different.
When it comes to heroin addiction, Pekin Police say there are many misconceptions, and they want people to see the real faces of heroin, which is the name of the department's new web series.
My name is Wendy McCready. I lost my son to heroin overdose a year ago.
The videos feature people and families who have battled addiction. This story, posted on Monday, already has 11,000 views and hundreds of shares on Facebook.
These are kids. These are people who have careers. These are people who work hard in the community and have fallen off because of their addiction and the direction that it takes them.
Just hours after the video's release, but across the river, Peoria leaders hold their own front.
We're seeing several overdoses a week, and some of those are resulting in deaths, so it's a big deal.
The two departments work together on a heroin task force with teams focused on stopping distribution. But both camps believe you can arrest your way out of this problem.
I don't want to live in a community where people are dying because of drugs that are killing our young people. We have to do better than that.
The web series will air every Monday on Pekin Police Department's Facebook page. Well, here's a look at the problem by the numbers. According to the DEA, heroin deaths have grown since 2010. The agency says between 2010 and 2014, there was a 248% increase in heroin deaths. In 2014, more than 10,500 people died from heroin-related drug overdoses. The DEA says the drug is a big problem in the Northeast and right here in the Midwest. But heroin isn't the only problem. Synthetic opioid deaths spiked in 2013 because of the increased use of drugs like fentanyl. CIOTR continues to follow this story. For the latest, head to our website, ciproud.com. There you can see all of the stories we've tackled on this issue. Well, Governor Rauner stops in Central Illinois last week, encouraging voters to take action. The governor says the state cannot move forward until it tackles the issues of term limits and redistricting. His comments come days after a judge ruled a ballot initiative aimed at changing redistricting was unconstitutional. The judge had issues with the way it was written. While a setback, Governor Rauner says change is still possible.
We can't have career politicians taking away the voice of the people, and I am calling on the members of the General Assembly when they return for the fall veto session to vote on and pass a constitutional amendment calling for term limits on all elected officials.
The governor says limiting the time state lawmakers can stay in office is one of the few ways to guarantee things will be accomplished in Springfield. A recent report shows lawmakers in Illinois are among the highest paid in the U.S. A study by the Illinois Policy Institute shows an average salary of nearly $68,000. Legislators in the land of Lincoln are the 5th highest paid in the country. The study shows $7,300 goes toward health care for each lawmaker. They also get more than $7,700 in per diem payments and mileage reimbursement. Taxpayers spend $32 million a year in salaries and benefits. You also pay nearly $15,000 per lawmaker for the pension benefits they accrue each year. The Illinois Lottery is trying to find different ways to improve business. It's looking to hire a private management company to oversee the lottery, its players, new technology, and to address customer needs and concerns. Another goal, to increase profits for the state. Governor Rauner says the lottery was poorly run in the past and cost you millions of dollars. The new management will also oversee new game experiences for players and continue to turn profits toward K-12 education. Well, as the national political stage is heating up, so is the political scene in Illinois. As Charles Thomas reports, the Democrats are urging veteran Senator Dick Durbin to run for governor.
I'm a Democratic governor. You need one of those. You need one of those.
It took an outsider, the Connecticut governor, to make first mention here of a topic Illinois Democrats talk about among each other but are reluctant to discuss publicly.
The election for governor in Illinois is about 30 months away.
U.S. Senator Dick Durbin admitted he's been asked to run in 2018. When asked if he would do it, he said Illinois Democrats should focus now on electing Hillary Clinton president.
But it's not a no.
Well, all I can say is I am focusing on my positive responsibility that the voters gave to me in the last election.
We have incredible challenges, but this week the focus is on national politics.
Other potentials repeated the "I'm focused on the presidential race" line.
There is no question that our #1 priority as Democrats is to elect Hillary Clinton president.
Still, some admitted being flattered by the attention.
Obviously, I've worked hard over the last 12 years, and I hope people have recognized that.
Wealthy Republican Bruce Rauner, despite the budget stalemate and sagging poll numbers, reportedly will run for a second term. Public sector unions are primed to support a Democrat against Rauner.
Never going to beat him dollar for dollar, but we are going to raise enough money that we can defeat him.
You'll find plenty of Illinois Democrats that are anxious to participate in the next governor's election.
But Chairman Madigan would not mention names. I asked specifically about his daughter, three-term Attorney General Lisa Madigan.
Have you spoken about this at all to Lisa Madigan, the Attorney General?
Not recently.
So how recent is recently?
I haven't even seen the chairman of the Democratic Party in Illinois today.
As everyone in that story mentioned, the election is still months away, so stay tuned. The legal back and forth between lawyers for former Governor Rod Blagojevich and federal prosecutors is heating up. Chicago Sun-Times reports prosecutors say a recent court filing shows Blagojevich does not deserve leniency. Resentencing for the former governor is set for next month. Blagojevich wants a federal judge to lower his sentence from 14 years to 5. Prosecutors fired back, saying the filing shows Blagojevich is showing a complete lack of acceptance of responsibility. Well, the Department of Transportation is focusing on safety. During one of the busiest travel times of the year, IDOT says Illinois has seen a 9% increase in deaths on the road. A mild winter and low gas prices could be among the reasons for more people driving. And IDOT's using the opportunity to remind you to be safe behind the wheel.
These are people's lives, and we care about people getting to and from where they're going safely. And so we're doing things on our end, and we just hope that the public will continue to do the same, and hopefully we can get that number down to 0 someday.
CDC estimates Illinois loses about $1.4 billion each year in medical costs and lost productivity because of traffic deaths. Connect Transit is getting ready to launch a social media campaign to help promote its new bus routes. Connect Transit is getting ready to roll out a route system in August. Starting next week, the transit system is using hashtags in social media contests like hashtag TripPlanTuesday and hashtag FindStopFriday to help get riders used to those new routes. Still to come, talking police practices, what the chief at Illinois State University says about a recent meeting at the White House. But up next, Caterpillar's cuts will continue, how the company responding to its recent financial report.
We are a cyclical business. We have downturns, we have upturns. We are currently in our longest downturn, expected to be our longest downturn.
A tough year for Caterpillar continues with the release of the company's second quarter earnings. Arla Sapaldo breaks down the numbers to see what it means for employees.
These downturns are not easy. They're not easy on anyone. Our customers, our employees, our shareholders, all of that.
With sales and revenue down from previous quarters, Caterpillar is faced with more tough decisions.
Reductions are expected across the portfolios, across the world. Certainly, if you're asking, are we expecting any in the Peoria area, I would say yes, that would be inclusive of the world outlook.
The company blames the second quarter numbers on restructuring costs and layoffs. Although Caterpillar isn't saying where future layoffs or plant closures will come from, employees are top of mind.
They, as they always are, will be the first people that we communicate to when those decisions are made.
Despite this announcement, Caterpillar actually comes in above where Wall Street thought they'd be today. As financial advisor Jim Stoll explains, this provides a glimmer of hope that an upturn is on the way.
A lot of the stock price movement today seems to reflect the hope and optimism that the worst is behind the company.
Stoll says oil prices coming out of their lows and the price of gold and silver should help the mining equipment company too.
The Caterpillar news today, while somewhat disheartening in the sense that they tempered their guidance, should be a sign of encouragement if this truly is the trough.
Our CEO spoke to our employees this morning and said, you know, we are going to be around another 90 years.
The company says uncertainties in economies around the world are adding to this tough environment. Still ahead, running out of money, what Illinois is saying about the future of the state's college savings plan. But after the break, policing on campus, what the chief at ISU says about best practices in the 21st century.
You're watching Central Illinois on the Record.
Welcome back. Policing in the 21st century. It was a topic of discussion recently at the White House, something Chief Aaron Woodruff was a part of. Thank you very much for joining CIOTR.
Thanks, Paul.
And welcome back to Central Illinois.
Thank you.
I know you've been back for a little over a week now. First of all, just kind of give us a broad overview of what you were doing in Washington, D.C.
Well, I received an invitation from the White House about a month ago inviting myself along with other law enforcement leaders from across the country to come and talk about the President's 21st Century Briefing, 21st Century Police Task Force Briefing.
And this wasn't just police, some members of the community, other activists?
Well, actually,
as part of the broader discussion.
The task force itself, when it was developed last year, included community members from across the country, leadership from different groups such as Black Lives Matters, but also from law enforcement as well. This particular meeting last week was just law enforcement.
And you kind of have a couple funny stories related to how you ended up there. First of all, the big question that people wonder, why did you get picked? Not as an insult, but hey, you know, The chief of police at ISU gets to go to Washington, D.C. to meet with the president.
I guess this was the fourth session, and I guess that question is asked every session. And each time they say, really, we just worked with organizations that law enforcement was in to send the invitations out to leadership from different organizations across the country. So really, they didn't have a good answer.
Yeah, and then when you initially got the invitation, you weren't quite sure that it was the real deal.
Yeah, the first email I received, I guess I thought it was junk mail, and then I got a reminder notice a couple weeks, I guess, later, and when I went back and looked, I'm like, oh, it's a opportunity to go to the White House, so it's kind of hard to pass up.
Yeah, I guess when the president calls you, you need to pick up.
Yeah, well, or he has a staffer send an email on his behalf, yes. Yeah.
Sure. So tell me about this event in and of itself. There have obviously been previous sessions, so what were they looking for when they brought your group in?
Well, they were doing a review of the task force report that came out in May of last year. And in that report, it had 6 pillars in which ways law enforcement and the communities can kind of work together to improve police-community relations. This specific session, they highlighted 4 particular areas. Officer safety and wellness, specifically looking not just at law enforcement officers who are being shot, but their overall wellness too, including mental health wellness, because despite the high numbers of law enforcement that are killed every year, there's still an even higher number of officer-involved suicides. So that is particularly an issue that needs to still be addressed. But he also looked at the Police Data Initiative, which is an opportunity for police departments to be more transparent with their numbers, so that communities can see what it is that the police are doing. They looked at implicit bias training, training and education for law enforcement. And implicit bias can, well, we all carry biases, but implicit bias is more that subconscious bias that could come out in interactions, and whether it's the community that has a distrust of police or police that have distrust of certain members of the community. So that was part of it. And then there was another piece on social media as well, social media use.
Something I think that's interesting about maybe the campus police setting, and that maybe people don't really think about, is, you can be in one city or another city or a county, and that represents a certain demographic. So maybe a lot of the people look the same in a given community. But on a college campus, you draw from a bigger pool, and so it's diverse. And so you're dealing with diversity on a fairly large scale. I mean, you're in charge of policing a small city.
Yeah, and it's, every campus is different, every culture at every campus is different. It's not just citizens from Illinois, we are dealing with international. Illinois State has quite the international population that other schools do, but we still have a significant number of people that come from across the world, but primarily in the state of Illinois. And the other piece to it is we're looking at a specific age group, primarily to 18 to 24. So it has its own unique challenges, and certainly alcohol plays a significant role in what we deal with. But we're also having to re-educate our population every year because a quarter of it turns over.
Certainly. So last question, because we're running a little short on time, but you go to this conference at the White House, you meet with other members of law enforcement from across the country. What's your biggest takeaway that you can bring back to Central Illinois and, not just share with your officers, but also with the campus and the community?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is, in Illinois, we're already have created some new laws regarding police-community relations, and I think as some of that gets implemented over these next couple years, we're going to see some changes. But the implicit bias training is really the piece that we'll be implementing in our department, and also not just for us, but into the university, where we have future leaders and people that are going to be graduating, going out into our communities, and we want them to be educated on these issues as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I think we'll have to have you back and kind of continue this conversation and see where it takes the school in the future. Chief Aaron Woodruff with Illinois State University. All right, still to come, a lot of questions after Legionnaire's disease shows up at the Veterans Home in Quincy for the second summer in a row. We'll tell you what leaders there are saying. Then Eureka and Espanol, how a school in Central Illinois is reaching out to Spanish-speaking students.
You're watching Central Illinois on the Record.
School leaders in Farmington are moving ahead with a plan that will help save money on the school's busing system. The district decided to lease buses from a third party. Officials say that will get them new buses and help cut the cost of getting students to class by about $130,000.
We've been losing somewhere between $250,000 and $400,000 a year in transportation reimbursement. So we have to figure out ways to cut costs. And so this was one way that we felt we could do that without really greatly diminishing the services to the students.
The changes mean the district will cut down on routes, which could add as much as 15 minutes onto a student's bus ride. But Superintendent Asplund says the district is working to make each child's commute as short as possible. Well, College Illinois is running out of money and could be empty in 10 years. Kelsey Gibbs has reaction from families in a story from our Capitol newsroom.
And then just put a few dollars each paycheck or a few dollars each week, you know, have the kids put money in their banks.
Kathleen Ray says now that her kids are adults, the savings for college is on to the next generation.
Savings, and we have savings accounts for the grandchildren. Their great-grandmother just supplies those quite often.
But the lack of a full state budget and rising tuition costs seem to be affecting how parents invest in the future of their children's education.
No, it doesn't surprise me because, you know, you have to trust.
Under the College Illinois Savings Program, families prepay for contracts that will cover tuition costs for students to attend universities in the state. Now parents could be looking at other saving options.
We invest, especially in education, and then it's in danger of being taken away. Just makes me sick.
And College Illinois hasn't received enough new customers to offset the future rising cost of tuition. Under current law, the state is not obligated to bail out the program, but that law may have to change if this was to happen.
I feel very sad as well as very angry. I really don't know what has happened, you know.
The reports from the Student Commission shows they need 1,500 new people to sign up to be fully funded. So far, they have fewer than 500. A college in Central Illinois is showing off a new portion of its website, Eureka en Español. It's a platform for Spanish-speaking students or potential students to learn more about the school, admissions, and financial aid. The translated online content launched last week. It's part of an overall community outreach project to recruit more Spanish-speaking students. The folks at the Veterans Home in Quincy feeling the heat after Legionnaire's disease turns up at the facility for the second year in a row. The latest on the case coming up. But first, migraines and medical marijuana, why a judge is weighing in on the discussion in Illinois.
You're watching Central Illinois on the Record.
Health advocates in Illinois are fighting to get migraines added to the list of ailments that can be treated with medical marijuana. A judge is ordering the Public Health Department to reconsider putting migraines on that list. Advocates say medical marijuana is another avenue for people instead of pills. The Illinois Veterans Home in Quincy facing a health scare. For the second year in a row, workers have discovered Legionnaire's disease at the facility. Last summer's outbreak killed 12 and sickened dozens more. David Butel has the latest.
2 residents at the Illinois Veterans Home have been diagnosed with Legionnaire's disease. Local officials say the current results are from a preliminary test.
I think it is concerning, but at this point, we aren't alarmed because we know that we are doing everything possible and our lab results are speaking for themselves.
Interim Administrator Kathy Houston says they're still looking for the source of the disease. Illinois Senator John Sullivan says it's disheartening to see more cases emerge.
Our first concern is the care of the veterans here and, of course, the employees that work here.
Sullivan called the Department of Veterans Affairs as soon as he heard the news.
I was disappointed. I was, frustrated, and immediately got on back on the phone and tried to find out what's being done to address the problem.
Health officials never found a source for last year's deadly outbreak, but the state spent almost $5 million renovating the plumbing system in hopes of preventing another outbreak. Now state and local federal health officials are working together to find the cause of these latest cases.
Officials say because the two newest diagnoses are from preliminary tests, more testing will be done to confirm it is in fact Legionnaire's disease. Meantime, officials plan to test the water every day. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Central Illinois on the Record. Of course, you can stay in touch with us using social media. Connect with CIOTR and me on Facebook and Twitter using the hashtag CIOTR. We'll see you next week.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of WMBD, WIZZ, or Nexstar Broadcasting Group.